Tupac once said California knows how to party, but I don't know if they're really going to party when they got a Category 5 storming coming their way.
You're Locked On Hurricanes, your daily podcast on the Carolina Hurricanes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to a Wednesday edition of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you to the Everydayer for making this your first listen of the day. 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, talking everything about your Carolina Hurricanes. I'm your host, Zach Martin. I'm the credentialed Carolina Hurricanes beat writer over at the Hawkers. Also do some AHL coverage over at the Calder Times. Also doing some baseball coverage at Cover in the Corner. If you know, check my other podcasts, I'm on the Surge Cast, which is a weekly Carolina Hurricanes podcast, along with all my duties here at Locked On Hurricanes. Got a wonderful Wednesday episode for you guys as we get to look forward to the Carolina Hurricanes 3-game road trip out to California on Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday. Not going to do full individual breakdowns, but we're going to take a look and see who they're going to be playing, get an idea of what these teams are like for the most part, and then we're going to predict the California trip of how many points do I think the team is going to get on when they're in California. But before we jump into all of that today, this episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Now, like I said, the Carolina Hurricanes are going on a 3-game road trip out to California. Of course, surprisingly enough, this is the first time they're going to be going out to California. Usually last year, we remember them going out a lot sooner. But so this trip, Thursday, March 20th, they're going to be playing the San Jose Sharks. Saturday, March 22nd, it's the LA Kings. And then they're going to finish off the back-to-back on the 23rd of March against the Anaheim Ducks before they come home for a nice extended home stretch going into April. But first game is going to be against the San Jose Sharks. It's probably the latest game out of the 3, so we are going to get a Canes After Dark. It is a 10:30 start. So the Sharks are 18-41-9. Not really the greatest seasons for them. But, I mean, you got guys like Macklin Brady, Collar Graf. They have some, decent enough talent. Alexander Georgiev is their netminder. But it's very interesting to see where you look at the San Jose Sharks in terms of just, while they've definitely lost a lot more games than they have won, like I said, 18-41-9. If you look at their tale, like I said, we're not going to go to a full breakdown of every game, but just kind of giving the basic overviews of these teams. The Sharks are 22nd in the NHL in the power play, 19.8, 26th on the penalty kill at 74.2. They are 25th in the faceoffs at 48.4, goals for 30th in the NHL at 2.6, and they also give up the most amount of goals on average at 3.69 in their last 10. They are 3-5-2, but they did have back-to-back wins over Toronto in the shootout and Buffalo. But yeah, San Jose has been in a rough freeze fall as of late for sure when it comes to just where they are at. As a team, they're just they're in a tough spot. I mean, you're looking at a team who's, still building, still trying to figure out what they want to do and stuff like that. I mean, when you look at the wild card, they are dead last in the entire Western Conference in terms of the wild card. In terms of you looking at the entire league, they are the worst team in the NHL. The minus 77 goal differential and 45 points. The Chicago Blackhawks were the worst, and Nashville at 1.2, but San Jose is the worst team right now, and they've already been eliminated. So it's just one of those things where if you're a San Jose Sharks fan, it is definitely tough to watch. You do have a lot of talent that you're excited for, but at the same time, you're in a pretty tough spot when you're knowing that you're kind of having to just basically somewhat wait for the draft. I mean, you do have some, like I said, they do have some players that they'd be excited about. Like I said, Macklin celebrating 50 points in 56 games. He's playing really well. You got Eklund, Tyler Toffoli, Will Smith, who's got 35 points in 60 games, Alex Wenberg, Defense is pretty tough. You got Ferraro at 12 points, Lilligren, Thrun, Ruda. Yeah, it's just one of those things where you're kind of like, it's not the greatest to look at, but I mean, where the Sharks are at. They're a team that's still trying to, they're in the middle of rebuilding. They're trying to get better over time and see where they're at. So for the Hurricanes, it's not a slam dunk because we all know that anyone can beat anyone at the right time. And like I said, the Sharks beat the Maple Leafs in a shootout. The Hurricanes have struggled against the Islanders. They've struggled against the Predators. So I'm not saying like any game is, guaranteed. Like I've said it a lot this year. This isn't your grandfather's NHL. You're not looking at the late 80s, most of the 90s, early 2000s before the lockout where there was no salary cap and these teams going to have like all-stars upon all-stars on their team. And then it's like you walk into a building and it's an automatic 2 points. That's just not how it works, unfortunately. But if you're the Hurricanes, you're on a 7-game winning streak. You're playing very well right now. The team's absolutely buzzing. Goaltending has been on an absolute tear right now, especially Pierre Kochetkov and all of that. And even Frederick Anderson's been playing well too, but Pierre Kochetkov has just been on another level. And yes, I mean, while the Sharks do give up a lot of goals, they don't really score a whole lot either, but they're still a team that's, they're still fighting for pride. They're still fighting for, something. They're not going to let you just walk into the Shark Tank and think there's going to roll over for you. It's so, like I said, you're still going to have to deal with guys like Toffoli, Wenberg, and all that. And hey, like I said, Will Smith has been looking somewhat decent for his rookie year. Macklin celebrating. Everyone's considering him to be a Calder finalist, maybe even the Calder winner for Rookie of the Year, and that's going to be against Michkov, and who I think Jackson Blake should be the third, rookie in there. But like I said, it's not going to be a walk in the park. It's not going to be just going into the Shark Tank and just automatically taking points. You're going to have to do what the Hurricanes have been doing for the last 7 games. Boston, so, but go in there and play 60 minutes of hockey, and that's kind of what you're having to look to is, yeah, it's your first, game of California. It's going to be a 10:30 start out on the East Coast, 7:30 there. You just had Sunday through Wednesday off, with a Tuesday that saw a very optional skate where 4 guys showed up. That was really about it. They weren't kidding when they said it was an optional skate Tuesday where only 4 guys showed up and they worked with George Alves. So my best guess is they're going to have practice in the morning on Wednesday. They're going to fly to California, take care of that. Then they got, all day Thursday to get ready for the game, play Thursday night. Then, they got Friday off. And then you got the back-to-back Saturday, Sunday against the Kings and the Ducks. So if you're looking at Carolina, it's one of those things you just go in there and take care of business. And, you give them 60 minutes of hockey. Like I said, I know for Thursday's show, we're going to do a full breakdown, the usual preview type stuff. But this is more of just a, hey, this is what we're looking at in terms of the trip, who's on their teams, what's the tail of his hip and stuff like that. We're not going to do like, players to watch or, the usual keys of the game. Like, so that'll be for Thursday's show. But today's Wednesday show is just, hey, what are we looking at? Who's on the schedule? Where are the Hurricanes going to be? What's the start times? What's their, last 10, stuff like that. Looking at, how they are ranked when it comes to the NHL. So right now, that's the first game. Is on Thursday against the San Jose Sharks at the Tank. And then, like I said, you're going to have the Kings on Saturday and the Ducks on Sunday. And then you kind of just see where you're at after that when you do the California trip. So we did talk about the Sharks a little bit, but now in segment 2, we're going to be talking about the back-to-back. That's going to be the LA Kings and the Anaheim Ducks in Southern California. So they go do one quick stop in San Jose in Northern California. Then they head down to the South and take care. They face off against the Kings and the Ducks. So stick around as we'll talk about the weekend back-to-back here in a second on a Wednesday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. There's nothing like watching basketball live. The energy of the crowd, the sound of the sneakers on the hardwood, and maybe even a celebrity sighting courtside. If you want to catch a game in person, Gametime makes getting tickets easier than ever. Gametime's new feature, Gametime Picks, filters out the fluff and shows you only the best deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time scrolling through thousands of tickets. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime Picks. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Ever check your banking account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in. It's your personal CFO, giving you the full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all of your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop just managing money and start building wealth. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off of your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNHL for half off of your first year. Welcome back to segment 2 of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day. So like I said, you play the Sharks on Thursday to start the California road trip. You got Friday off, and then you play the LA Kings for a 4 p.m. Eastern Saturday game, which the game will be at 1 o'clock out there in California. So a nice little early afternoon game for the Carolina Hurricanes, as they will be taking on the 36-21-9 LA Kings. The last time these two teams met up, obviously the Kings won 4-2 on February 1st to start off the month of February, which was not the greatest of months for the Hurricanes, that's for sure. In terms of their points leader so far, Kevin Fiala, Quentin Byfield in terms of points, goals, and Fiala with assists. Tell the tape for the Kings, 28th on the power play at 15.5%, but they are 9th in the NHL with an 81.7% on the penalty kill, 15th on faceoffs at 50.5%, 22nd in goals for at 2.8%. But they do have the second least amount of goals at 2.56 per game. They are 5-4-1 in their last 10. Their most recent loss to the Minnesota Wild, but before that they were on a 5-game winning streak. So you definitely see a big difference when you look at the Sharks to where you are with the Kings. I mean, Darcy Kemper's playing really well. David Ridge has some pretty good stats as well. But the fact that you look at the Kings and it's like, all right, they're like the Hurricanes. Their penalty kills top 10. But their power play is bottom part of the league, and the fact that they're worse than the Kings is crazy. So you look at the Sharks, power play and penalty kill is not good. The Kings do have a better penalty kill, but their power play is also worse than the Hurricanes like the Sharks is. They don't really score. They score a decent amount of goals, but you're not talking top half of the league. But they do, instead of the Sharks who give up the most amount of goals per game, the Kings give up pretty much less than that. It's just the Kings, for whatever reason, have a not so great power play, but the fact they have really good goaltending, even though they're not scoring, at a high clip like the Hurricanes are at 3.24. But the fact that the Kings are 15 games above 500 at 36-21, it does speak something to a fact that you have a team like with Byfield and Fiala and also, Anze Kopitar, Adrian Kempe, even, former Hurricane Warren Fogle too. Like, he's there. Alex Lafreniere, Alexander No. I mean, don't overlook the defense of Brant Clark, Gavrikov, Jordan Spence, Mikey Anderson. So, unlike the Sharks, where you're looking at where it's like, okay, this team, you can tell they're just not a good team. It should be a very winnable game. But with the Kings, though, this is going to be a little bit of a tougher matchup because you look at them, they are actually they're in the third spot in the Pacific Division, behind the Golden Knights and behind the Edmonton Oilers, and they're only a point behind Edmonton with the game in hand. Then looking at the wild card, I mean, you got Minnesota who's right there at 81, but then it's a drop-off to Vancouver at 73. So even then, you're looking at an 8-point difference, and with the game in the hand for the Kings is where, unless they completely fall apart, I don't see how the Vancouver Canucks could catch them for the third spot. So in reality, the Kings are looking right now, they might be facing the Edmonton Oilers for like the third or fourth time in the playoffs, which I know Kings fans are really getting sick and tired of that. But it's a vastly different, team when you're looking at the Sharks, dead last in the league. Numbers across the board just aren't that great. But they're rebuilding all these youngsters. They got some veterans there. But you look at the Kings, they have a lot of good veterans. They got some young guys that were up too, and their goaltending is really solid. Who would have thought Darcy Kemper would be really good going from Washington to the Kings? But They are in a good spot, though. I mean, they're 1 point off of second place. They're only 5 points off the division lead. So it's not like the Kings are just kind of hanging in there by a thread of the playoffs. Like they have a decent lead over the Vancouver Canucks, and they're relatively close to Vegas, where they're even that close for first place. So, and we know what happened last time. The Hurricanes lost 4-2 to the Kings to start of February. Wasn't the greatest game for them at that point. And the Hurricanes are a completely different team. At that point, you're hoping you're coming into that game on an 8-game winning streak, and you're feeling really good about yourselves. And you're looking to exact some revenge in LA because the Kings come to Lenovo Center back on February 1st, beat you in your barn. So hopefully that's the same thing for the Hurricanes. They go over there and take care of business. So it'll be interesting to see how that works out. But overall, I think this will be a very good matchup. Like I said, now you got 2 penalty kills are playing well, but there's also 2 striking power plays. But with the fact that the Hurricanes do score a lot and don't give up very many goals, but you look at the Kings, who are a team who scores relatively okay, but they give the second and least amount of goals too. So that's what's going to make it very, very interesting. Now, to wrap up the road trip, will be a Sunday game at 8 p.m. Eastern to be 5 over there in Anaheim. So a little bit later, but not so bad for a Sunday to where it's still, relatively normal if the Canes were playing in the Central Time Zone for a 7 o'clock game there. The last time these two teams faced off, obviously, was Eric Stahl Day. Carolina losing in overtime 3-2, but the Ducks are 29, 31, and 7. And looking at their standings and where they're at right now, it's very different for how their season's kind of shaping up for them. 65 points on the year. They are, they're relatively somewhat there. I mean, at least they're only 8 back of Vancouver for the last wild card spot. Play the same amount of games, but they are a minus 32 in their goal differential. So it's one of those things where the Ducks definitely have an uphill battle to climb to try to get back into it. Especially when you have like Gauthier with 4 assists in the last 5 games with 5 points, and then Mason McTavish with 2 goals. But if you look at how they are as a team overall, second to last in the NHL in power play at 12.8%, penalty kills 28th at 72.8, dead last in the faceoffs at 44.4, 29th in goals for at 2.63, and then goals allowed 3.12. In their last 10, they are 4-6-0. So they've won games against Nashville, the Islanders. They even beat Edmonton, and they beat Vancouver, but they've also lost to Vancouver in that process too. I mean, John Gibson, his goals against is right around 2.8 with a 910 save percentage, but Lucas Dostal has more starts, but carries a 908 save percentage, does have a shutout, but his goals against is 2.9. Like I said, we're not doing a full breakdown of the team. You got Troy Terry at 49 points, Frank Vetrano at 41. We talk about McTavish, Strome, Trevor Zegras at 21 points in 42 games. Defense, you definitely got to worry about Gudis. You got to worry about Trouba. Jackson Lacombe is at 35 points in 60 games. That's probably one of their best defensemen right now on that team. Of course, we talk about goaltending, and they even just picked up Ville Husso, but he is down there in San Diego in the AHL. But almost like the Sharks, this is a Ducks team whose power play is second to worst. Penalty kills way at the bottom of the league. They're third to last in goals for at 29, and they give up a lot of goals to their 21st. So, and they're dead last in the faceoffs. Of course, like I said, the last time these two teams played, this was back on January 12th, losing in overtime. But this is where it's another revenge game against the Ducks. And I think where the Hurricanes are at now compared to where they were then, I think this is, like I said, hopefully by this point you're running a 9-game heater. If you lose to the Kings in overtime or whatever, nobody didn't have a point streak going on. But I think this is another, just like the Sharks, this is another game where you should be able to win this one and pick up some more points, and then you finish with the California road trip on a high note. And I think you should, honestly. So that's kind of what you're looking at. But if you want to get my predictions of how this road trip's going to be, well, stick around as I'll do that here in segment 3 on a Wednesday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. Scaling your business requires the right expertise at the right time. With Upwork, you can find specialized freelancers in marketing, development, design, and more. Experts ready to help you take your business to the next level. Upwork gives business flexibility by connecting them with the top freelance talent across multiple industries, including IT, AI, web development, and marketing. Whether you need extra hands for a project or a long-term partner, Upwork makes hiring simple and affordable. Visit upwork.com right now and post your job for free. That's upwork.com, upwork.com, to connect with the top talent and grow your business today.
The NCAA tournament is here, and so is the Bracket Breakdown.
Locked On Podcast Network and Amazon Fire TV channels are teaming up to deliver NCAA tournament coverage like never before. Watch studio shows featuring former players and Locked On's local experts as they guide you through every upset, buzzer beater, and bracket matchup.
Stream it all for free on Amazon Fire TV channel. Search Bracket Breakdown to see it all for free.
It's your team every day.
Welcome back to segment 3 of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day. So like I said at the end of segment 2, what are we predicting? What would I be predicting for this 3-game road trip to California? Like I said, you got the Sharks on Thursday, you got the day off on Friday, and then you got the Kings on Saturday and the Ducks on Sunday. And for me, if I'm looking at each individual game, I mean, like I said, with the Sharks, this is where it's kind of like, okay, this is a team who's dead last in the league. This should be a game where they should be very, very beatable. Like I said, no game is a gimme at this point, but you're looking at a team who's 18-41-9. Just across the board, it's just not a team that you would suspect to, pull an upset on the Kings. But like I said, this is a very winnable game, but it's not, one of those ones where you don't want to overlook the Sharks as well because anyone can beat anyone. But for me, this is a win. You have to beat the Sharks. It just makes sense to do that. I mean, like I said, you're well above that team in terms of the points and, stats across the board. It makes sense for the Hurricanes to be the better team, and they're on a 7-game winning streak. So for me, I definitely see the win for the Hurricanes in this one. Now, this is where it's going to get very interesting in terms of how the middle part of the trip is going to be, because you have the LA Kings, who are 36-21-9. They did beat you 4-2 back on February 1st at home, which kind of kicked off a very tough February for the Canes. But if you're Carolina, you're coming into this game with most likely an 8-game winning streak, you would hope, and you're still feeling really good about yourself, and you're a completely different team compared to how you were the first time you played the Kings. And I'd say if there's any possible points lost, I think this would be like an overtime loss to the Kings, and where now you're looking at a 9-game point streak, but not a 9-game winning streak. But I do believe that with where the Hurricanes are at right now, at this point, like you said, you're hoping to be on an 8-game winning streak. You're playing very well. You're a completely different team. I think you get full 60 minutes in LA. I can see where this could either be an overtime loss, and you're looking at a 9-game point streak, or you're looking at a 9-game winning streak. And for me, I think this is a 9-game winning streak. You beat the Kings on Saturday afternoon. You get your revenge. You split the season series. And now you're running a 9-game winning streak into the second half of a back-to-back against the Ducks, which is the next night at 8 p.m. Eastern, which will be the next day at 5. You lose the Ducks back at home on Eric Stahl night. You lose 3-2 in overtime. Another one of those games where the Hurricanes are kind of teeter-tottering between wins and losses. At this point, are you on a 9-game point streak or are you on a 9-game winning streak? And either way, I think this is where no matter how the Kings game goes, this is a game where you take revenge on the Ducks. You split the season series, and now you're either leaving California on a 10-game winning streak or on a 10-game point streak. And for me, I think this is also another win to where penalty kill, power play, face-off, goals for, goals against, it's all going against the Ducks. This is where you should definitely come into town. You're, like I said, you're a completely different team to when you played them the first time. Same thing for the Kings. If you're still riding that wave of you go to California, you beat the Sharks, let's say you beat the Kings, and then you go to Anaheim, I think this is another one where you go in, play 60 minutes of hockey, take care of business, and you're walking away from a win with this one as well. So for me, if I had to say at the minimum, this is where a Hurricanes team goes in, beats the Sharks, beats the Ducks, and you at least get 5 points. Maybe you lose in overtime or you lose in a shootout to the Kings. But you leave California at the worst 5 out of 6. 5 out of 6, that's probably the worst. You could stomach a 4 and 6 where you maybe lose to the Kings, but I don't think we're going to see a point streak or a winning streak get snapped. So I think this is where you're looking at the minimum 5, but you can stomach 4. But for me, 5 is definitely where you're going to be at. But the hope for me, I can see the Hurricanes taking all 6. I can see them rolling into California, go up to San Jose, beat the Sharks, head to Southern California, and take care of business against the Kings on Saturday, Ducks on Sunday. You head back home. You got a long homestand right after that. You got the National Predators on that Tuesday. But you leave California 6 points on the board. You're on a 10-game winning streak, and you're flying, feeling really great about yourselves. You basically took that Category 5 storm, that's Carolina, sent it to California, beat them. You come home as a Category 10-game streak winners, or at least, a 10-game point streak. But a 10-game winning streak would be even better as well. So let me know in the comments, if you're on the YouTube, or if you want to hit me up at OneTrueZach on X or the Zach on Blue Sky. Let me know. Do you see the Hurricanes winning all 3 games in California, or do you see them taking, 5 points and maybe they lose 1 in overtime or a shootout? Or, do you see them just getting 4 points? So let me know. What's your prediction for California? Do you see 4? Do you see 5? Or do you even see 6? And then if it's the 6, how great would that be to see the Carolina Hurricanes coming back home after the California trip with a 10-game winning streak? So it definitely should be fun. Like I said, thankfully, the only Canes after dark game is Thursday against the Sharks at 10:30. But you have Saturday at 4 Eastern, and then you got Sunday night at 8 o'clock. So luckily, only one super late game for the California trip. But it definitely should be fun for sure, and hopefully we see some great games in California for your Carolina Hurricanes. But, guys, that will wrap up a Wednesday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. Thank you for making your first. For your second, why don't you check out Locked On NHL podcast, bringing you the daily league wide stories that matter with the local coverage you love from Locked On. Find Locked On NHL on YouTube or wherever you ever listen to podcasts. If you want to keep up with me, I'm at OneTrueZach on X. The podcast is LO_Hurricanes. I'm also on Blue Sky at the Zachary Martin. I have link trees where you can check out all my articles at thehockeywriters.com for your Carolina Hurricanes coverage. If you want to check out my AHL stuff, well, it's thecornertimes.com. Maybe you do want to check out my baseball content. Well, it's coveringthecorner.com talking about the Cleveland Guardians. But I also do have another podcast called The Surgecast if you want to check that out on all podcast platforms and on YouTube. For this show, well, it's Locked On Hurricanes on all podcast platforms, Spotify, Google, Apple, iHeartRadio. Follow, subscribe, leave a 5-star rating or review because I might just read it on the show. For YouTube, well, it's Locked On Hurricanes. Subscribe. Hit the bell notification so you don't miss the show. Hit the thumbs up to let me know if you like the show as well. Share with all other Keniacs to become everydayers just like you. But hope everyone enjoyed the Wednesday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. Hope everyone enjoys their Wednesday. And until next time, as always, let's go Canes.